I remember my neighbor. He was, I don't know, maybe 30 years my senior, but he took me under his wing and showed me how to make a kite. It's a good feeling when the kite that you made takes off straight instead of veering to one side. Your heart beats fast and you get that sense of achievement. And then it goes higher and higher and you let it out into the sky. One could say that there's a parallel between making and flying kites to coaching. I say that because when you make the kite, you better be sure that it is so well balanced. And so when you are coaching, you have to make sure that you develop that athlete in the best possible balanced manner. So skills, strength, physical as well as mental. If you have made that kite with the correct dimensions, then when you launch that kite and it goes up into the sky and is traveling in a straight line, you know you have overcome all the complicated parts. And you can feel like a scientist who has achieved something great. That's human nature. I was born in 1942. I was a primary school teacher from 1961 to 66, and then a secondary school teacher from 67 to 80. And then after that, I was a lecturer at the Institute of Education. Are there differences between a teacher and a coach? A lot of people ask. I think it is very, very similar. I think teachers are born coaches. They come into this profession because of something in them. They see themselves that they are coaches, that they want to contribute to the development of these boys and girls. And I'm glad that there are such people. When I had just joined Tiong Bahru Primary School as a teacher, there was a head of department, Mr. Lai Hin Weng, and he took me under his wings and he taught me so many things. We had to draw our own track, and he showed me how to use mathematics to draw that track. I'm not the person with high IQ or anything. I heard of Pythagoras' theorem in school. I'm sure I didn't know what it was all about, but Lai Hin Weng made it real. To make sure that it is a rectangle, you got to make sure that the four corners are right angled. And how do you get a right angle? You use Pythagoras' theorem. And then from the rectangle, we had to do the two half circles. And he showed me how to use 2 pi r to make those lanes around the curve. And so I will never forget Mr. Lai Hin Weng. And those of you who are listening, all those my colleagues from Tiong Bahru, I will never forget how kind you were to me, how you helped develop me as a teacher. I think, as a coach, as a teacher, you have a very, very important role because you are in the environment so much. I think you can't help but be sincere, because you have people's life in your hands, and so you must be sincere in what you're doing, and you cannot, and you must give 100%. You see, if you're a teacher, you want to be the best you can be. You cannot say, yeah, never mind lah, be half teacher, half relaxed. Cannot. I know it's not easy, but I know that it can be done. So, yes, there is a link between teaching and coaching. From my time as an athlete and the coaches who surrounded us, at that time, the majority of, more than 95% of the coaches were teachers also. The coaches of the past are different from the coaches of the present. I mean, when I'm saying past, it's like 40 years ago, okay? They were volunteers. There was no full-time coach. They had a couple of coaching courses done locally and usually conducted by senior staff from the Ministry of Education under the guardianship of Tan Eng Yoon. I tell you, there cannot be another man like Tan Eng Yoon. People gave him total respect. Maybe because of his status in life, because he's a lecturer, and then he was a Ministry of Education inspector of schools, so that gives a person the prestige. But we also listen to him because Tan Eng Yoon could coach every event in the track and field. And of course, at that time, I believe that his knowledge all came from the time that he went to Loughborough. When he was there as a student, he was also the team captain of the Loughborough Athletics Club. Can you imagine? In the 50s, people in the world think that in Singapore we all live in trees or something like that. But because of his triple jump ability, because of his hurdling ability, sprinting ability, they made him the captain of an athletics team in Loughborough. And Loughborough was a leading college in the UK. And then when he came back, then his career took off. If he had not persuaded me to go down to the track to become an athlete, I don't think I would have achieved anything that I achieved in life. Because then I would have just remained as a teacher and nobody would have noticed me for anything. But because he spotted me, he brought me through, and then, of course, I achieved something at the track and field Asian Games level. My whole life, I would say, is very much dependent on what Tan Eng Yoon did for me. From 1973, when I made a comeback after a 2-year layoff, there was Mr. Hari Chandra. Because he was the one in charge of the 4x400 meters for the 1973 SEAP Games when Singapore hosted it for the first time. Hari Chandra, I will never forget you, Hari. After that, there was Mr. Patrick Zender, who was in charge of the 2 relays that went to the Asian Games in Tehran in 1974. Patrick Zender. So these are the coaches that played a crucial role. Hari Chandra when we were preparing for the SEA Games in 1973, he was in charge of the 400 and 800 meter runners. And we'll be at the track at 6 a.m. and he'll be there before us. I would say that we had complete trust in Hari. You know, Hari, at that time, in 73, he brought in our top 800 meter runner and let him stay in his house so that he could look after him and overcome his problems. So that was the kind of trust that we felt with Hari. I don't envy the coaches because of the amount of preparation they have to do, and the most important thing is they have to be very alert when they are on the track. They have to look after that person. How is that person reacting, and how should the coach react to our reactions? So, these grounds were sort of sacred to us athletes, because our life, a lot of our important part of our life was spent here and with each other and with the coach. So, coaches have had so much influence in our lives. A coach's job is a very, very, very important. I could see that they gave everything all the time. I remember Patrick Zender. Throughout that day, when we were training, he would be there leading in the warm-up and then running, giving us the schedules and then timing us. And then we finish and we will go and recover, and he would be looking at his notes or something, and then we will have lunch, and I've never seen him have lunch. And then he would only relax after in the late evening. And that is after he had given us all the massage and everything else. So we had this kind of coaches. I think for me, it's like this. I have this feeling inside me that keep doing. People are depending on you. I have no choice. I just have to make sure I'm doing the best possible. That's my philosophy. I would like visitors to do this. When they come and then they look at these medals, the question I want to come into their mind is this: why are these medals specially put here? It was all about gratefulness to those coaches. I think that's the way to describe this. Gratefulness to Tan Eng Yoon, and then up there, that will remind me of, that's for Hari, for the 1973, and then back to the 1975 games, SEAP Games, it was for Patrick Zender. Without the three coaches I worked with, and without trusting each of these three coaches, I would not have achieved anything that's in this sector. All those trips, all those SEA Games, Asian Games, Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, nothing would have been possible without the effort of these three coaches. Coaches, I take my hat off to you. You are in a very noble profession. You have lots of responsibilities to the athletes as well as to their parents. So be prepared. Coaching is as difficult as flying a kite. It looks simple, but it's not simple. As you go higher and higher, it becomes a great responsibility. So, coaches, my message to you would be like that kite. The kite are your athletes. And to see them soar up into the heavens, you have to make sure that every part of the kite has to be 100%. If you make a mistake in making that kite, it will show when you are setting it up. Because one imbalance in that kite is going to set it in a wrong direction. You may have to dismantle the kite and shave off one part, a bit here, a bit there, and glue it back on, and then send it up again. So learn how to do it. The science is there before you. The experienced people are there before you. The coach developers are there before you. The seniors are there before you. Learn from them and then use all this knowledge. And be that true human being that you should be. Because you are dealing with people's lives. In competitive sports, you are fighting to succeed, and that is the life lesson. You are fighting to succeed in life. And the things that you have to do to succeed in sports are so many. It is physical, it's mental, it's social. Every aspect you have to work on in sports, and then it's similar to life. Simplify things. I think that is the secret. So there are lots of things, but you are the coach and you are so intelligent, and so you simplify it. Bring it down so that you can present it in such a way that the primary school can understand it, the secondary school can understand it, and so on and so on and so on. So, depending on the level of athletes you're coaching, make sure you are one step ahead of them. If they are university students, make sure that your understanding of all these sciences is up to their level, up to their needs. And it's very simple. Nothing is complicated. So make life simple. Make these sciences simple, straightforward for your trainees. First of all, you have to be the right kind of person. You must be the father, the uncle, the big brother for these kids. That's one. Then you have to be the mentor. You have to be the role model for them. I think the simplest thing would be you have to maintain a good health, good physique. So you have no excuse to get a tummy. So, and there's no excuse because you know why you have a tummy. Nutrition, exercise. So you must show that you are using your knowledge for yourself. You know these things, so you have to apply it to yourself. No excuses.